Welcome back to the National Briefing. This is Kelly Nash, a little tired, maybe even a little hoarse. I was on the phone late night. Late night for me, 9:30. The news out of Columbia, South Carolina kind of startled a lot of the political world yesterday. According to the Democrats in South Carolina, even they didn't expect what happened in South Carolina to happen. What they had expected was to be able to delay the vote, just keep adding amendments to it. But they got a deal with 12 Republicans to kill redistricting for this year in South Carolina. And let's soothe ourselves with, like Richard Cash, Anderson, Republican, considered a very conservative member of the body. I understand the anger and frustration that we could not pass our redistricting bill any faster, but the rule of law is the bedrock principle of our constitutional republic, and I'll emphasize it is the bedrock principle of conservatism. I don't know what he just wrapped himself in. He was trying to wrap himself in the American flag. He wrapped himself in toilet paper, because that is crap, what you just said, Richard Cash. Let me point out something that, for whatever reason, this doesn't get brought up. The 6th District of South Carolina is in direct violation of the United States Constitution. I'll say that again. James Clyburn's district is in direct violation of the U.S. Constitution that was just upheld by the United States Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court almost looked at James Clyburn and said, you got to go. You have got to go. How do we know that James Clyburn's district is in direct violation? I will read to you the words of the Post and Courier newspaper. Is that the paper of record in South Carolina? I don't know. It might be. The state used to be, might be the Post and Courier now. This story was dated in 2020, talking about how did we get the 6th District. Now, if you look up the history of the 6th District, it's been around since 1803. But in 1991, it was redrawn after the U.S. Justice Department passed with bipartisan support. Now, I'm reading this from the Post and Courier. Quote, to help the blacks not to give any one party dominance over the other. What did we just learn earlier at the Supreme Court level? You cannot help the blacks. You cannot help the whites. You cannot help the Latinos. You cannot help the Middle Eastern. You cannot help the Asians. You cannot help the indigenous people. You cannot help any race. She goes back to, it starts in 1982. Congress expanded their Voting Rights Act to make it clear that the voting laws had disenfranchised black voters. They didn't have a big enough voice. The U.S. Justice Department, which until 2013 had pre-approved any voting changes in southern states, insisted that the states draw, quote, black majority districts anywhere possible. The U.S. Justice Department in 2013, under Barack Obama, violated the Constitution directly with an order. You must draw black majority districts anywhere possible. They generally define these as black districts with the population in excess of 60%. That is in violation of the Constitution of the United States of America that was just upheld last month at the U.S. Supreme Court. The district is in violation of the Constitution. Now, am I going to call Alan Wilson, our Attorney General, and say, I would like for you to, petition Henry McMaster to bring a lawsuit against our own district? I don't know how any of this would work. But the politicians in South Carolina needed to know a couple of things yesterday that they did not know, apparently. One is the district is illegal. It's an illegal district. It needs to be redrawn to be in alignment with the Constitution of the United States. The other thing that they needed to know was this had nothing to do really with James Clyburn. James Clyburn used to be a very big name in politics. At one point, number 3 in the House behind Pelosi and Steny Hoyer. Today, he's a nothing burger, reduced by age to just a babbling old fool. I played a clip of him yesterday. Couldn't even understand the first 30 seconds of what he was droning on about. But that's not, it doesn't matter about James Clyburn. It matters that he is a Democrat. He caucuses with the party that is actively trying to destroy America. They want socialism. They want AOC, Mamdani, Gavin Newsom. The names go on and on. All of the chaos in Minnesota, Chicago. It's all a disaster. It's not your dad's Democrat Party anymore. The kids have taken over. The inmates are running the asylum. So the question yesterday was not, is this a vote to protect or take away James Clyburn's district? This was a decision. Do you want to empower Donald Trump to have 2 more years, or do you want to empower Hakeem Jeffries to basically be the leader of the United States? Now, I pray that we still hang on to the House without South Carolina contributing. I hope, against hope, that somehow this is a possibility, that we do not turn over, the entire agenda of the United States federal government to Hakeem Jeffries, that we get the, Hakeem agenda. We don't want that. We don't want to see Donald Trump impeached for 2 years. Your vote was not about James Clyburn. Your vote was about Donald Trump. Your vote was about Republicans. Look, I see a lot of them saying the same things. Well, we were rushed. We didn't know what we were doing. We weren't sure if the districts were going to map out properly. We weren't sure. We weren't sure if we were going to win. We weren't sure. I don't care. And most people don't. In all honesty, when your team plays to win, people are excited. We cheer for that team. When your team plays not to lose, often they lose, and nobody cares if they win. They just look at the coach as a sad, pathetic, weak-wristed, limp-wristed coward. And that's what these people are, cowards. They're either conservative cowards or people who misunderstood what the vote was about. I have no excuses for. I've met many of these state senators. They're all, in general, very nice people. If you happen to live in South Carolina, the state senators' names are Bennett, Campson, Cash, Cromer, Davis, Hembry, Johnson, Massey, Peeler, Rankin, Stubbs, Zell. Those are the ones who voted to sabotage the redistricting plan. And I would rather us be a 4-3 state than a 6-1 state, knowing that we tried for the win. And the overwhelming majority of South Carolinians feel that way. Don't be cowards. We don't know if it's going to be, and then the Democrats are going to. And look, the Democrats got exactly what they wanted yesterday. Not only do they get to keep the seat, but what they had expected to happen was Republicans were going to Republican. They were going to actually vote to redistrict the state in their favor. And then what they were going to do is go to the state Supreme Court with this idea of we had overwhelming first day turnout. And they did. They all weekend, they were banging the drum. When the polls opened Tuesday at 9 a.m., we want you there. James Clyburn was out there. All the Democrats were out there begging people to come vote, and they got them. Yesterday, they set a one-day record, 50,000 people voted. So the Democrats are flexing in South Carolina, and it's because of those 12 people that I just mentioned. Those 12 state senators are making America less great again. They're taking an opportunity to empower the MAGA movement, and they just stabbed it in the back. And they did it, out of statesmanship. They did it because we had to be responsible. The vibe of the country is no longer that. That is your older brother or your parents' party. America wants big time change, big time, on both sides of the aisle. They want fighters on the left. We want fighters on the right. We don't want statesmanship. I don't want to see. Look, you know what it's like? It's like pro wrestling, except it's for real. And I don't want to see you having nice chit-chat conversations. I don't want to hear about how Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill used to have beers together. Neither one of those people were crazy. You're talking about an insane lunatic party in the Democrats right now who's pro-transgender, competing in sports. They're pro-open borders. They're pro-socialism, communism, Marxism. They're pro-everything that is just completely against the DNA of the United States of America. And you cannot be friends with these people. You cannot have a decent conversation with these people. The only thing you can do is vote them out of office. Vote them into the ash heap of history. You had an opportunity to give it a shot yesterday, South Carolina. You 12 state senators completely failed, and we all have to now try to deal with that mess.
Your escape from the mainstream echo chamber. The National Briefing.